The night smelled like salt, diesel, and something rotten that didn't belong by the docks. Christmas Eve had wrapped the city in blinking lights and false cheer, but behind the warehouses, where the music couldn't reach, the darkness felt heavier. Chief Petty Officer Daniel Cross tightened his grip on the leash as his canine partner, Rex, slowed and lowered his head. Rex never slowed unless something was wrong. And when he stopped beside a pile of trash bags stacked against a rusted fence, Daniel felt his chest tighten before he understood why. Rex whined, soft, broken. He pawed at one of the bags, then sat, eyes fixed on Daniel. Trained to the bone, Rex never sat like that unless he'd found a person. Daniel's first thought was anger. Someone drunk, someone passed out, someone who didn't care enough to be better. He crouched and tore the bag open, ready to curse, ready to call it in. Instead, a tiny hand fell into the cold air, blue at the fingertips, shaking. "No, no, no," Daniel whispered, his voice cracking as he ripped the plastic away. The little girl couldn't have been more than 6. Her hair was matted, her coat too thin, her shoes soaked through with something dark and freezing. She wasn't crying. That scared him more than anything. Her eyes fluttered open as Rex pressed his warm body against her side, whining louder now, nudging her gently like he was afraid she'd break. Daniel scooped her up without thinking, years of training dissolving into instinct. He wrapped his jacket around her, felt how light she was, how her ribs pressed against his arms. Christmas lights flickered on a distant street as he ran, shouting into his radio, his voice tight and uneven. He had seen war, he had seen death, but this was different. This was a child thrown away on the one night of the year people pretended kindness mattered. At the emergency room, the heat felt unreal. Nurses moved fast, words blending into each other. Hypothermia, dehydration, malnutrition. Daniel stood against the wall, hands still shaking, Rex sitting perfectly at his heel, eyes locked on the small form on the gurney. When a nurse finally approached and said she was stable, Daniel's knees nearly gave out. They asked her name. She stared at the ceiling, lips trembling. Rex lifted his head and let out a soft bark, not loud, just enough to remind her she wasn't alone. Her eyes shifted toward him, and for the first time, she spoke. "Lily," she whispered. Daniel exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. When the social worker asked what happened, Lily's words came slow and careful, like each one hurt to let go. Her mother had promised Christmas dinner. Promised a warm place. Promised it would be different this time. But the man who lived with them got angry. The electricity was off. There was no food, no tree, no presents, just shouting, just fear. He told her mother she was useless. Told Lily to stop crying. Then he dragged her outside and said she was a burden. She said she'd come back, Lily murmured, staring at her hands. She always says that. Something inside Daniel split open. He turned his face away, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. He had kicked down doors overseas. He had carried wounded teammates through gunfire. None of that prepared him for the quiet devastation of a child believing abandonment was normal. That night, Daniel sat in a plastic chair beside Lily's bed while Rex slept curled on the floor, one paw touching the hospital bed leg. Snow fell outside the window, soft and indifferent. Lily asked him if Christmas was cancelled when you were bad. The question hit him harder than any bullet ever had. "No," he said, swallowing. "Christmas isn't cancelled for anyone." She nodded, unconvinced, and closed her eyes. Over the next days, Daniel learned things he wished he didn't have to know. Lily had bounced between shelters. Teachers had noticed bruises, hunger, silence. Reports were filed. Nothing changed. Systems moved slow. Pain moved fast. Daniel told himself he was just checking in. Just making sure she was okay. But every time Lily smiled at Rex, every time she relaxed when Daniel entered the room, something rooted itself deeper in his chest. When the social worker mentioned foster care, Lily panicked. She hid her face, shaking. "Please don't send me somewhere else," she begged. "I'll be good, I promise." Daniel stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly. The words left his mouth before he could stop them. What if she didn't go somewhere else? The room went quiet. Paperwork was hell. Questions were endless. Doubts came late at night, when Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if he was enough. He was a Navy SEAL, trained for violence, for loss. What did he know about raising a child? But every morning, Rex woke him early, tail thumping, ready to go. And Daniel remembered how Lily had been found. Remembered that doing nothing had never been an option for him. On Christmas morning, the hospital allowed a small celebration. A donated tree, a few wrapped toys. Lily sat on the bed, Rex beside her, Daniel standing awkwardly nearby. When she opened a small stuffed dog and hugged it to her chest, her smile was cautious, like happiness was something that could disappear if she held it too tightly. "This is the best Christmas," she said quietly. Daniel felt tears blur his vision. Not because of joy alone, but because of grief for all the Christmases she never had. Weeks later, Lily walked out of the hospital holding Daniel's hand, Rex trotting proudly at her side. The sky was clear, the air cold but honest. She looked up at him and asked if trash was where broken things went. Daniel knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. "No," he said firmly. "Broken things get fixed. And people aren't trash, ever." She thought about that, then smiled. Years would pass, and Lily would grow stronger. There would be scars, questions, hard days. But there would also be safety, laughter, birthdays, and Christmases filled with warmth instead of fear. Daniel would learn that courage wasn't just running toward danger. Sometimes, it was staying. Choosing love, opening your life to pain because it might also lead in healing. And every Christmas Eve, Daniel would walk the docks with Rex, the lights reflecting on the water. Not because he expected to find another miracle in the trash, but because he knew now how fragile hope could be. And because one broken night had taught him that saving one life, holding on when it's easier to walk away, can change everything. Somewhere in the city, bells would ring, snow would fall, and a little girl who had once been thrown away would sleep safely, believing at last that she was worth keeping.